Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. And today we're talking about, this is my opinion, the most important part of business. And we're talking about being the CEO of your own health. That's right. I said it, not a business topic, but we're going to unpack this in 15 or 20 minutes, why this is probably the most important area for you to focus on in order for you to have a growing, thriving business. Because if you're dead, you can't run your business. So digest that for just a minute. But it's not just my opinion. I have an amazing guest here with me, Julian Hayes II, and he's going to help us understand not only why it's important, but how to be the CEO of your own health. So enough of me rambling. Julian, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me on. I love the excitement, and I wholeheartedly agree. It's the most important topic.
So here's why. Let me just set the scene here. So I have personally had my health taken away from me, and I say it that way on purpose, several times over the course of my career. And in those times, I felt completely helpless. I was running my own business. I could not perform my daily functions. I couldn't even bear to lead my team or talk to people. I was in so much physical pain that it took everything in me to get out of bed. And in those moments, I realized there is no way that you can sacrifice your health and run a thriving business. It's just truly impossible because it takes everything in you to just focus on being. You have nothing left for the business. So, in those moments, I decided I have to be the CEO. I have to take ownership of my health. And that's why I'm really passionate about bringing these types of episodes to this podcast and having you here. But give me your perspective. I mean, why do you talk about this topic?
Yeah, well, like you, a lot of times you brought up a big point right there. Your health was taken away from you. So a lot of times with health, it's not a problem until it is a problem. Unfortunately, but also fortunately for me, I haven't had that situation, but I've been directly involved with it. I have a bunch of family members, dialysis, amputations, all sorts of health ailments all around me from a little boy. So I've seen these things up close and personal. I felt it emotionally, spiritually as well. And so for me, it's always been a priority no matter what. And for a lot of us, we don't get that moment. And so we don't think about it too much. And if you think about it with health, the dangerous thing about health is it doesn't really hit you just right then and there for most of us. It's a slow burn over the course of time. If you think about weight gain, I get maybe somebody gains 2 to 3 pounds a year. That's nothing. But if you keep that up in 15 years, in 5 years, that's 15 pounds right there. Now it's a problem because there's also other lab work now as well. So health is slow moving, unlike a lot of other things in life. So that's one of the tricky reasons, which is why most people are not really urgent with their health.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you don't see it because you can't physically look inside your body and say, oh, look, my lungs look funky today. You need to be proactive about it. You need to go get your labs done, go to the doctor regularly. But then I also heard a good friend of mine, I was talking to him last week, and he hasn't been to the eye doctor in over 10 years, he said. And this was the best part of the whole conversation. He is an urgent care doctor. Like, of all people to not manage his health, you would think he would be in charge of it, but I guess it's just something we put off. So why do we just kind of take it for granted if we're, air quotes, healthy?
A lot of times we think we're the exception. It can't happen to me. It's point and blank. You think whether we even fully conceptualize that, a lot of times we see all these things around us and we think, no, that's not going to be me. I wouldn't let myself do that. Think about how many times, I have a friend, this is sort of related, just got a newborn, and you think he's like, I'm not going to be the dad who's going to be, I'm going to be the in shape dad. And then the moment actually comes, and here we are with a 17-month-old. He's the out of shape dad, and so we all think we're the exception to something. And if you're not really on top of that thing, just like in business, that thing will creep up on you. And it's a tough thing. And then we also have in business, especially as you become more successful, we have this thing where I think of it as a success paradox, where you start to get more responsibilities, more expectations on you. You have more responsibilities. Maybe you have a couple employees now. And we all vividly remember that day one day. I call it the ramen noodle days, where you don't have anything and you don't want to go back to that. So there's a sense of fear in that area. And maybe a sense of having blinders as well, that I just got to keep focusing on and growing, 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 more money, because I can't go back. I can't go back. And then I have all these things. So health in this situation unintentionally gets placed on the back burner. And for most people, you don't have these daily reminders about your health. Now we have technology now, wearables and stuff that's helping a little bit now. But if you think about all the various KPIs that we have in business, all the daily reminders, just checking the business account is a reminder of where things are going, how payroll's going, how's the sales going, how's the leads going, what's in my inbox looking like. We have all these reminders every single minute in business. And if we don't do that with our health, then of course it's easy to place on the back burner because it's not top of mind. It's probably not even on a calendar. So I mean, it makes total sense to me. But those are a couple of reasons why.
Yeah, and they all make sense and they're all fair points. They're not good excuses, but they're fair points. So
Mhm,
then let's talk about shifting the conversations. You be actually being the CEO of our own health.
mhm,
One thing that I always find very interesting is if you look at any of the famous CEOs, executives, think, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates. I mean, they're not overweight. They're not out of shape. It's kind of ironic that when we have these really, really wealthy people who are
mhm,
running massive businesses, they clearly prioritize their health. When we take the conversation to small business owners and entrepreneurs, we think we're too busy.
mhm.
So, what are the baby steps? What are the principles we can start to put into place, regardless of how much time we have? Because it's not about having time, it's about making time. But how
Yeah.
do we start prioritizing our health?
Yeah, I like to, before even diving into any sort of tactics, I like to think about this as we all understand business lingo. So think of your health as another business of yours. What is the first thing you're going to do with the business? A lot of times we have a vision for it, we have a mission for it, we have values and principles for it. We have, in 5 years, this is where I want to go, or long term, this is how the business is going to go. I'm going to have this amount of employees, and it's super vivid, it's super detailed. You're excited about it, but if I ask someone the same question, how do you want your health to be? They're like, oh, I just want to be healthy. That's very lackluster. That's not very exciting. There's no emotion in that. There's not even really any specificity in that, because fitness, optimal fitness to me is probably different than the next person beside me. So why don't we create a vision for our health with the same detailed and vision that we do for our business? It's not that I just want to be alive at 90. What do you want to be doing at 90? If you love skiing and snowboarding right now, why don't you? Would you want to continue to do that for as long as you can? Of course you would. So therefore, what I'm doing here is you're creating stakes. Why it's a necessity. It's not just a nice to do anymore. It's a necessity. I don't have to tell anyone why you need to get up every morning and do stuff in the business, why you need to make sales calls, outreach calls, connect calls, emails. I don't need to tell anyone to do that. They tell you, well, I need to provide for my family. I want to keep the business going. I got payroll. Well, it's the same thing with your health now, isn't it? Why do you need to work out? Why do you need to eat healthy? Because in a decade from now, I want to be able to continue to do the same things I want to do. Maybe 20, 30 years, I want to be able to walk my daughter down the aisle, and so these things are now, it's logical, and it's also now emotional, and that's what really gets us into action. And this is something that we can easily see more now. It's not just, I just want to feel healthy and feel good. That's boring. But if you put some emotion behind it and your specific vision of what that looks like, you have a lot more clarity and motivation to continue on, and you have a specific way to start training yourself if you know the endpoint, just like we do in business. So that's the very, very, very first step that anyone should do.
That's so funny because we always tell our clients there's two really important steps to get started in growing your business. Step one is clarity,
Mhm.
which you just said. You have to know where your business is. You have to know what the operations are doing, what the finances are like, how it all ties together. And then once you have that, the next thing you need is confidence. Confidence to know, okay, well, at least I know where I am, but I don't really know how to get from here to where I want to be. And what you're basically saying is identify the where you are and the where you want to be, so there's clarity around that. And then now we need to build that plan of confidence to know that, okay, if we execute on this, that end goal, or at least that point along the journey, is not possible, it's inevitable.
Mhm.
So talk to me about building that plan of confidence then. What does that look like?
Yeah. So one of the things for me, and I had this thing as well, when you're building confidence, a lot of times we want to feel very confident from the start. And that's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. We get confidence from doing. I think more importantly, we get confidence from keeping our word that we're saying we're going to do something. And so at the beginning, I really don't care how the quality of someone's workouts is. I just want them to do it, to build the habit. You're building skill, you're building competency up. It's the same thing. My first like outreach email was horrific, but my 100th one, it's pretty good now. I feel pretty better. I don't like to do them still, but it's much better than that first one. And it's the same thing with your nutrition. Same with your health. When you're introducing new habits, it's going to feel unfamiliar, of course, because you got to think more. You got to use a little more brain power to remind yourself of what to do. It's not as familiar. Think about it's the difference between driving down the road that you always drive on. You don't have to think about it. It's second nature compared to driving in a new city where you're a lot more aware of all your surroundings around you. It's the same thing with our health here. So that's the first thing is to have this mindset shift that I don't need to be fully confident right now. I just need to do it. And that's my sole priority is did I do it or did I not? Do that for a couple months. Then worry about the next step. Now, a tactical thing to do like an audit. Any great business, especially in the operations area, they're probably going to look at underneath the hood of the business, proverbially. This is the same thing with your health. So it's an audit. There's different tiers and levels that you can do when it comes to this. A basic thing is to go get some lab work. You can get basic lab work with your insurance. It's a little dicey if you want something very comprehensive, but there's a lot of great resources out there that you can go outside your insurance and it's quite affordable still. So that's an option. Even having a wearable and starting to keep up with like your heart rate, your respiratory rate, your activity levels, and then looking at that and then comparing it to how the quality of your days are going. You're building awareness. You're building to say, hey, when I work out and eat this type of way and I get this type of sleep, my days tend to go better. My relationships tend to go better. All these other positive things start to happen. So, all these things here, we're building awareness.
Yeah, I like that. And that is something that I kind of changed the way that I look at it was I started wearing one of those wearables, a Whoop.
Mhm.
We're not sponsored by Whoop. There's no affiliation. But I did start using it a number of years ago. And one of the things I noticed was um, two things, good and bad. The bad was I would look at my sleep data when I woke up
Mhm.
and I would start to make the decision subconsciously, oh, it's going to be a bad day because my sleep is red or yellow or whatever, or it's a good day because it's green. And I noticed that directly impacted the way that I at least approached the day. And then on the kind of backside of that, I would be like, okay, first of all, we need to ignore this data
Mhm.
before we really wake up. But I was able to see, okay, what are the trends? And
Mhm.
that's what I found way more powerful. So I ignored the bad data that helped me make bad decisions. But the good data that said, okay, I'm headed in the right direction. You
Mhm.
zoom out, right? So is that kind of what you're saying with just executing on it for a long period of time?
Absolutely. I love that you mentioned trends. That's what you're noticing because probably a lot of guys like us and girls as well is that especially in this business world we're very data driven and so we're going to take these things as it is and sleep is probably the most inaccurate thing of all those wearables of all the metrics that a wearable has. Sleep is the most inaccurate one. So for me, I don't really let that dictate it now because I pretty much know, hey, if I only got 2 hours of sleep, of course I'm going to be in the red, most likely. And of course I'm probably going to maybe not have my best workout, but I'm not going to tell myself that still. I'm probably going to feel it a little bit. So you have to be really careful in that arena, like you said, of taking it as the gospel, because it's not totally accurate yet. None of these things are absolute just yet, unless you're going to a sleep lab, and then you'll get something very accurate. So for me personally, what I do is I look at it, and like you said, it's a general parameter of where I'm around, and then also how I'm feeling. And I know my body pretty well now. And so for the most part, my workouts are pretty much full steam ahead, no matter what, unless there's some type of ache or something. Or like my heart rate, that's a key one. So if you feel an illness coming on, you're going to notice that your heart rate is going to go up. And then you're also going to notice that your HRV is going to go down. And so that's where, trends over time, that's a key one. Because what you're doing now is you're saying, okay, these numbers are getting a little wonky, and you're getting a 2 to 3 day head start on something that may come. So even if you can't totally prevent it, you can help mitigate it. And so what you're doing on the back end now is you're becoming much more resilient, and you're able to bounce back in your business. You're not down for the count as long in your business and in your performance. And the whole name of this game is about resiliency, because we are all going to get knocked down, whether it's in life or business. Now it's a matter of how quick can we respond and get back up and get back to playing.
Yeah, it's such a good way to look at it too, because that's the whole thing. I mean, none of us as business owners want to be sick or out for days or even weeks at a time. If you can be proactive and prevent this stuff, which I'm going to argue you absolutely can. If you take care of your health and your fitness, you the length of time and the amount of days that you are sick throughout the course of the year will reduce drastically. It's just what I've seen from my own personal journey, along with a number of other people, to the point where actually when I was at my peak, there was 3 years in a row I didn't get sick. And those were 3 years where I had little kids. My wife was a teacher in school with little kids. She was sick all the time. I was never sick because my body was just that resilient. So that's the kind of stuff we're talking about here. Those days cost you money as business owners and time. And that's why I feel so importantly about this. So Julian, I kind of have a question about, like, what does life look like on both sides? I'm curious, like your client journeys, when someone comes to you, they obviously they want to work on their health and their fitness. When they're, a couple months in, they've been executing, and then maybe a year or two in, like, what does their work performance look like? What's the change in their business journey after working with you and working on their health for that long?
It's smoother. And that's the word that comes to my head. It's a smoother flow of day to day. It's an ease. Because a lot of times I can do the same things that I'm doing, but they're much harder to do. That's the big sticking sentence I hear a lot. It's not like I can pinpoint it. It's just that, a lot of things are just harder than what they used to be. And now they're getting back to being easier and like they should be. And so it's an energy thing. And it's an efficiency thing. They're much more efficient. The cognition is there. They're a lot more sharper on their feet, proverbially speaking. And so those are the key ones. And of course, there's body composition things, but I'm always interested in the intangibles, the things that we don't expect. So some people, it's a confidence that they haven't had in a while. Maybe it's to make some major moves that they've been putting off that they wanted to do. And of course, the big one for me is I love to see the improvement in family. I love to see that dynamic. I love to start including family in your activity. A lot of times we're so busy. And if you have kids, there's nothing more that kids love to do than to run around and work out. So you can go on a nice hike. You can put a ruck pack on or a backpack or something and make it a workout as well, and have your family as well. And you're knocking out 3 things right there. And you're building an experience. So I love to hear those types of things, that, hey, we're starting to do these things as a family, and to make fitness and health more of a culture. That's the things I most love. Labs are cool, but it's more, what are those things leading to?
Labs are cool. It's the tagline of the episode. I love it. No, that's a cool transformation though, because that's what it's all about, right? I mean, the business side of things is for sure important, and I made that argument at the beginning of the episode. But It's about your whole life. You need to have your whole life in place, and your health is the one thing that's consistent with you. No matter what you do, your health and your physical body are there with you. So take care of it. That's
Yeah.
the message of the
And
episode.
and I will add one more thing. You think about this, that you are an athlete, and maybe you're not playing on Sundays, but you are very much an athlete, because business is the ultimate sport. It's a 24/7 sport. There's no off season, and this is us. Unlike most NFL players, your career is not going to end after 5 to 6 years. You're most likely going to be on a run for at least a couple decades for most of us. And so if you think about that, is how can I keep playing at the top of my game in my sport for the longest? And part of that is your health. And we look at some of my favorite athletes. They're playing into their late 30s and 40s because they're treating their health as the prize investment that it is.
Man, that's a good way to look at it. I've not heard of it like that. And now I'm all fired up. So thank you for that. I appreciate that way to end the episode. I got your website here on the screen, and it's down below in the show notes wherever you're watching and listening. But tell me what can we find on your website if someone wants to go check it out and reach out to you?
Yeah, you can find everything. I love to create. So there's a couple blogs there. You also see links to my Forbes columns, that I'm a columnist there, and then you also see links to the podcast. And then of course there's a link to contact me and to have a chat with me about any of your health goals or goals for your organization as well.
That's so awesome. I love it. Go check that out if you want to dive in a little bit deeper, take that next step in your health journey. Now, Julian, I love to end the episodes with a question. We believe that What If powerful questions get powerful answers. And in terms of this conversation today, your physical health, and just building a better life, becoming the CEO of your health, what is a powerful question that you want the listener to ask themselves until they get that powerful answer to take their health to the next level?
Ooh, I love that. Hmm. Oh, what if? There's so many angles here, but what if I took care of my health and made it a priority more? How much more impact could I make in this world?
That's a good question. Let me tack on a part two that you also said in this episode, and for how much longer?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
I like
because
that.
you might be healthy today, but if you don't take care of it, I promise you it'll be taken from you, or you will let it go. So,
Mhm.
Julian, thank you for being here. This is a phenomenal episode.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really love these questions.
For those of you watching, listening, wherever you are, make sure you subscribe. We love putting on these episodes every single day of the week to help you not only move your business forward, but also your health, your mindset, your relationships, everything that's going to impact you as an entrepreneur. We want to build the whole entrepreneur here at Harmonious at Lunch. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on tomorrow's episode.